want to round a number to the nearest 10 or 100, we have to look at the place to the right to help you to decide whether to round up or down. I like to underline the place I'm rounding to and draw an arrow to the place that will tell me whether to round up or down. You always look one place to the right of the place that you want to round to. Even though both of these numbers have 37 in them, you'll see that we're going to round them differently because we are rounding 137 to the nearest 100 and 37 to the nearest 10. The same rule still applies for rounding to the hundreds place as it does for rounding to the tens. 5 is the key number. If it's 5 or higher, you round up, but if it's 4 or lower, you have to round down. For 137, since we're rounding to the hundreds, we'll have to look at the number in the tens place. The 3 in the tens place tells us to round down. We'll round 137 down to 100. You round the number in the hundreds place, make the numbers in the ones and tens places zeros. But for 37, since we're only rounding to the tens, we'll have to look at the number in the ones place. Since that number is a 7, we're going to round up because 7 is greater than 5. We'll round 37 up to 40. You round the number in the tens place and make the number in the ones place a 0. Let's take a look at a real-life situation that requires rounding and see how our rounding to the nearest 10 and 100 skills can come in handy. These kids want to see how many fruits and vegetables their class has eaten this week. Let's help the kids figure this out quicker by rounding. First, we'll round the fruits eaten this week. According to the data, 443 pieces of fruit were eaten this week. Now, let's round this number to the nearest 100. We'll use the strategy of underlining the hundreds place and drawing an arrow to the tens place so we know what numbers we have to look at. I see a 4 in the tens place. I know if it's 4 or lower, we have to round down. The 4 in the hundreds place is underlined, so we have to round the 4 in the hundreds place to 400. When rounding to the hundreds place, the number in the tens and ones place becomes zeros. Now I know about 400 pieces of fruit were eaten this week. Next, we'll round the vegetables eaten this week. According to the data, 29 vegetables were eaten this week by kids. Man, these kids need to eat more veggies. Now, let's round this number to the nearest 10. We'll use the strategy of underlining the tens place and drawing an arrow to the ones place so we know what numbers we have to look at. I see a 9 in the ones place. I know if it's 5 or higher, we have to round up. The 2 in the tens place is underlined, so we have to round the 2 in the tens to 3 tens. When rounding to the tens place, the number in the ones place becomes a 0. Now I know the kids only ate about 30 vegetables this week. I'll leave you with a challenge. I want you to help the kids round the next 2 types of food one kid eats a day to the nearest 100 and 10. I'll give you some time to think, but if you need more time, you can pause the video and answer when you're ready. Okay, here's the answer. We had to round the amount of protein one kid eats a day to the nearest 100 and round the amount of grains one kid eats a day to the nearest 10. The amount of protein one kid eats a day is 154 grams. I see a 5 in the tens place. I know if it's 5 or higher, we have to round up. The 1 in the hundreds place is underlined, so we have to round up the 100 to 200. So each kid eats about 200 grams of protein a day. The amount of grains one kid from the class eats a day is 81 grams. I see a 1 in the ones place. I know if it's 4 or lower, we have to round down. The 8 in the tens place is underlined, So we have to round the 8 tens down to 80. So each kid eats about 80 grams of grains a day.
Write the I can statement now, which is I can round numbers to the nearest thousand. Rounding is to change a number to a more convenient value. Here the diagram shows us that when a number ends in a 4, 3, 2, or 1, we'll round the number down. And when the number ends in a 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, we're going to round up. Why do we round numbers? We round numbers so that we can work with them more easily when we're adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing them. Here's another way to think about rounding numbers. If the number that you're looking at is a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10, you will round up. It'll go this way. If you are working with a number 4 or down, 4, 3, 2, or 1, you'll round this way. Let's round this number to the nearest thousand. The number is 7,665. I'm going to underline the digit I'm rounding to. Since I'm rounding to the nearest thousand, I'm going to underline the thousands place, and then I'm going to circle its next door neighbor. Here is the hundreds. Now I remember that the 6 told me to round up, so the 7 becomes an 8, and every digit afterward becomes a 0. So the nearest thousand to 7,665 is 8,000. Let's round this number to the nearest thousand. My first step is to underline the digit I'm rounding to. In the directions we're rounding the nearest thousand, so I'm going to underline the thousands place and circle its next door neighbor. The 2 tells me to round down, so the 4 stays the same, and every other digit becomes a 0 afterwards. So I'm saying the nearest thousand to 4,209 is 4,000. It wouldn't be the thousand above 5,000, because that's about 800 away. 4,000 is closest because it's only about 200 away. In fact, 209. Let's do one more number before it's your turn to practice. This number is 7,518. The directions are to round this number to the nearest thousand. So again, I underline the thousands place, and I circle the hundreds because it's going to help me decide if I round up or stay at the 7,000. The 5 is almost right in the middle of 7,000 and 8,000, but I do know that I'm going to round up with all 5s. 5s always round up. So the 7 becomes an 8,000, and I fill in the rest of the digits with a 0. So the nearest thousand to 7,518 is 8,000.
The nearest thousand. So let's consider the multiples of 1,000 close to 3,200. The nearest multiple of 1,000 below 3,200 would be 3,000, and above it would be 4,000. And in between those two numbers, or midway between those two numbers, would be 3,500. And if we were to place 3,200 on this number line, it would be down here somewhere. So let's write that down, 3,200. So as you can see, 3,200 is much closer to 3,000 than it is to 4,000. So our answer would be 3,000. Okay, our next question. Our next question asks us to round 7,600 to the nearest thousand. So the multiples of 1,000 close to 7,600 would be 7,000 and 8,000. In the middle of those two numbers, or midway between those two numbers, would be 7,500. So that means that 7,600 would be round about here somewhere because it's bigger than 7,500. So that means that 7,600 is closer to 8,000 than it is to 7,000. So our answer would be 8,000. Okay, our next question. The next question asks us to round 8,531 to the nearest thousand. So again, the multiples of 1,000 close to 8,531 would be 8,000 and 9,000. And midway between those would be 8,500. So if we were asked to put this number on the number line, 8,531, well, it's going to be here because it's slightly bigger than 8,500. So that means that our that means that 8,531 is closer to 9,000 than it is to 8,000. So our answer would be 9,000. Okay.